Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, the podcast where we bring you inside the world of joint ventures, strategic partnerships, and powerful collaborations. Each episode, you'll dive into conversations with top entrepreneurs, visionaries, and business leaders, unlocking the secrets to building profitable relationships that drive growth and success. Whether you're looking to expand your network, find new referral partners, or scale your business, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
Welcome to Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Today we are joined by Mason Rashtian, who is the founder of the Mason Rashtian Law Group. Mason, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Nice to have you. Thank you for inviting me, Adrian. Yeah, it's the Mason Law Firm.
Oh, sorry. It's the law firm, Law Group. Yeah. I don't know why I got Law Group. It's the law firm, Mason Rashtian Law Firm.
Yes. There's actually another firm called the Mason Law Group, and believe it or not, we get mistaken for them all the time. But no, we don't
want to make that mistake here.
No. There's a big difference between us and them. Trust me.
Can we start off? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the Mason Rashtian Law Firm?
So I've been an attorney for 27 years. I guess I wanted to help people ever since I was a kid. When I was 11 years old, to make just a shorter introduction kind of thing, my dad kind of left. So being the eldest of the three sons, I kind of became the de facto, person who took care of the family. So that got me starting to want to take care of people ever since I was a kid, right? So when I went to law school, I first wanted to be a prosecutor because I wanted to help victims. But then when I finished law school, there was a moratorium and a freeze on hiring prosecutors. So then I had to go to the civil side. I figured the best thing to do is work for a defense firm to learn how to become an attorney, because they don't really teach you in law school how to really practice law. So for the first 9 years, that's what I did. I cut my teeth. I learned as much as I could. And in 2006, I opened my own office called the Mason Law Firm, and here we are.
That's incredible. I mean, that early sort of, I love that story of being the eldest. I mean, do you feel that sort of sense of responsibility guiding you to this day?
I do, yeah.
Wow.
I still have to be careful. I mean, I'm in my 50s now. My brothers are in their 50s and 40s, and I still feel responsible for them sometimes.
Right.
I have to be careful and say, okay, they're old enough. I don't have to worry about it anymore. But it's always in the back of my mind. It is.
And can you tell me a little bit? You have a background in psychology. Is that correct?
That's my master's. My bachelor's was in psychology, correct.
And can you tell me a little bit? I mean, how did that background in psychology, how does that affect your approach to law?
Well, there was actually a specific class for psychology and the law, so I took that. But that being said, just having that background in psychology helps me a lot with my clients because my communication, my empathy for them, I kind of sometimes figure out they're different. Everybody has different personality. Everybody has to be treated differently in some ways. And it's not just the client. It's also the defense attorneys. Everybody has their own shtick. So you have to kind of learn how to deal with that and how to manage that. So that's helped a lot.
I mean, is it something where, does it, in your field, there's obviously a lot of people that are dealing with trauma. Does that psychology background help in dealing with people that are, affected, that people that are victims of trauma situations?
It does. It helps with the way we communicate with them. It also helps the way to figure out how they want to communicate, right? So when I started doing my business coaches, one of the first things we did was trying to figure out how my clients want to be treated and how they want to communicate, right? Some people are visual, some people are auditory. So it depends on how often they want to be, some people want to be every week, they want an update. Some people really don't. They just said, when you're ready, just talk to me. So everyone's different. So it helps figure that out as far as how to approach clients and treat them the best way they want to be treated and how to proceed.
What are some of the common misconceptions that people have about personal injury lawsuits?
The lawsuits itself, they think it's lengthy, which could be true. Everybody when I talk to clients about a lawsuit, they always worry, I don't want to go to court. Well, right. Especially nowadays, only 2% of cases ever go to trial anyways. It's becoming less and less because it is so expensive, so costly to go to trial, right?
Right.
So those are some of the things. The other issue is they're worried about, depositions, they're worried about being questioned, stuff like that. And there's still negative connotation. People think, oh, they think I'm just out there for the money. That's not really the case. You know what I mean? So that's the issue that our clients deal with a lot of times. They're just nervous about it.
Right. And I guess to that same point, those are some of the misconceptions. What are some of the common mistakes that you see people making when it comes to handling a personal injury lawsuit?
As far as clients or as far as attorneys?
I'm going to say both. I meant clients, but now that you opened it up to attorneys, now I want to know both.
Okay. The first thing that clients sometimes don't do is talk to an attorney early on, right? Because when they wait, sometimes they give a statement to the adjusters, because the insurance companies love doing that. They love setting up a statement and asking you if you were hurt or not, right? So if you say, nah, I'm not really hurt right now, they use that against you. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is really waiting to see a healthcare provider, right? Even if you think you're okay, you should get checked out. Not everyone's injured. I'm not saying that, but you never know. The issue becomes when you really don't see anybody and you wait and a month goes by, then it becomes really difficult for your case, because the first argument is going to be, well, if you're really hurt, you would have seen somebody already. See what I mean? Right. You want to do away with all arguments that could come up from the other side. So the first thing you should do if you're injured, just talk to somebody. You don't have to hire anybody, but just get some information and see somebody, even if it's your primary care doctor, just to see, hey, if something's going on, if my spine is out of alignment. We're talking about the soft tissue was. Obviously, if you break a bone, if you have a major accident, that's a whole different story. You're in the hospital, so that usually takes care of itself, right?
When people come to the firm and they do have, a personal injury case, is it a situation where, you sort of have a one-size-fits-all strategy to dealing with a personal injury case? Or is it something where every approach and every strategy is highly custom tailored to the individual in their case?
Every case is different. And I tell that to clients all the time. Sometimes people ask me, well, how much is my case worth? Or how long is it going to take? And I tell them, you know what? If any attorney tells you what a case is worth right now at the beginning of the case, you should not trust that attorney. Run away from them, because they're not being ethical. There's no way in the beginning of the case you know what a case is worth or how long it's going to take, for so many reasons. We don't know what the injuries are, the extent of injuries, future treatment, how much the medical bills are going to be, if that person is going to lose any time from work. We don't know what kind of a witness they're going to make. That makes a big difference in front of a defense attorney, because if you're a better witness in front of a jury, then they will handle your case different, right? We don't know who the insurance company is sometimes when we first meet a client. And that makes a difference, because every insurance company has different policy, right? So for example, if you get the Infinities or some of the ones that have like a minimum policy, then you know what a minimum policy is. It's like $15,000 at the time. Now it's been raised to 30 for this year, beginning of the year, but it used to be 15, right? We don't have all that stuff. Sometimes you don't know what the liability issue questions are going to be, right? If it's a slip and fall, there's always going to be a lawsuit. Always.
Right.
So all that stuff comes into play. And honestly, one of the things I tell clients all the time, and I used to say this, now I can back it up, what happens in the world affects you. Pandemic changed everything. Right? The way insurance companies work, the way we handle the law, everything. So what happens out in the world affects you. The way the economy goes affects you, because insurance companies change the way they handle business.
I'm curious. I'd love to dive a little bit deeper into that. What are some of the changes that you saw happen as a result of the pandemic?
The major thing that first happened was we almost never go to court anymore, in a way, right? I always thought there would come a day where attorneys would just call in to speak with the judge like we do right now on video.
Right.
But when the pandemic hit, that just automatically happened, right? So the only time, this generation of attorneys, I've been in this for 27 years and I've been in court many times. This generation of attorneys right now may never see court ever.
Wow.
You only go to court if you really have a trial, right? Everything else with the judge, all the hearings is done either on video, or you call in and you don't have to have your face on it sometimes, but it's still video. And depositions now, it's all different.
Right.
There's no more in-person depositions almost. In the past 5 years, I've had 2 depositions that took place in person. Everything else is on Zoom.
Wow.
So that changes everything as far as how you approach things. And sometimes it makes it harder, because if you want to show documents and exhibits, it's harder to do, but it makes it a lot easier in other ways, right? So that's
Yeah.
part of the way. And of course, in the beginning of the pandemic, insurance companies, made so much more money as far as the car industry goes, because there were no accidents for a while. People were not driving.
Right. And can you tell me, you mentioned you've been doing this 27 years. Can you tell me, in that period of time, are there any other trends that you have seen come and go in the personal injury space?
The biggest one is the communication, obviously. When I first started, I remember 2000, when I first started working at the very first defense firm. The attorney, the partner, didn't even use emails at the time. He didn't even have a computer in his room.
Right.
So that's 2000. Now fast forward in 2025, everything is done online.
Right.
I mean, it's completely changed everything. Pre-pandemic, we used to mail everything out to the defense attorneys, clients. Postage-wise, we go out every day. Now everything's done digitally. We don't have paperwork in our office anymore. Everybody uses, everything is PDF, everything's digital. So the filing system is completely different, right? We email other attorneys our discovery and our motions and everything else. We don't mail anything anymore. So from going where it was, at the time in 27 years ago, maybe fax machines were the big thing. Now they're obsolete in some ways.
Right. And I'm curious, to flip it the other way, looking ahead, are there any trends that you see on the horizon that are coming down the pipeline? I mean, the big talk of the day right now, everybody is AI. I mean, do you think that technology is going to affect the personal injury space, or are there any other trends that you think are coming down the pipe?
Yeah, I think AI is here to stay, and it's going to affect everybody.
Right.
Okay? I know I heard of a story where they had an AI take the bar exam and passed it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this was a couple of years ago. But the state bar said, no, there's no way that's going to happen.
Right.
The problem with AI, it's a great tool in some ways, but it worries me also. One problem with AI is now everybody thinks they're an attorney. All they have to do is just go to Google and put in something, and AI would give an answer.
Right.
Right? Because it pulls from everything else. That doesn't necessarily mean it's the way it's all true. It's getting better. AI is getting much better. I know when it first started out a year ago, there were questions people would ask. How do you make sure cheese is on pizza? And it would say, use glue, stuff like that, right? That's what AI was initially, but now it's getting better and better. And it's now into everything. The problem becomes sometimes you don't know if you're talking to a real person or if AI is really behind what that person says. And more importantly, what is written and what is not written, right?
Right.
There was an attorney who used AI for one of their motions in New York about a year or two ago, and the judge sanctioned him severely because they realized it was AI. The problem was AI did this motion, but it pulled from case that didn't exist. It made up cases on its own.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but eventually that's gonna fix up too. So
it's pretty wild. I saw a recent video that was a situation where somebody, like you mentioned, was doing an in-court thing, but they were chiming in through Zoom, and they got yelled at by the judge because they were using an AI avatar instead of their actual camera on their face.
Yeah, it was. I think the attorney's daughter had his cat as the avatar, right? So you see the video, and the guy keeps saying, "Your Honor, I'm not a cat." He just didn't know how to fix it, and that's just it. The older generation are going to have a harder time right now with the technology and the AI, so they're not going to use it.
Right.
But the next generation of attorneys are all going to be into it, and they're going to be using it for everything.
Right. I'm curious, when a client comes to the firm, Can you tell me a little bit about what that discovery phase looks like when you're trying to figure out the details and intricacies of the individual case? I mean, you mentioned that every case is unique, that they're all custom tailored. So what is that discovery phase when you're trying to find out what a client's needs are? What does that look like?
So in the initial investigation with the client is different from case to case, right? So
Mm,
car accidents are much easier. You
right.
get the information about how it happened, where it happened. Obviously, if it's a rear-end collision, there's no issues about liability, right? Someone hits you from behind. If it's a T-bone accident in an intersection, you get a little more detail. You want to know about the lights. You want to know the light situation, when you saw the light, what was the color of the light, how long did it take to change, stuff like that. Slip and falls are a whole different animal, for example, right? When it comes to slip and falls, the law is different because the person who owns or controls the location where you slip and fall has to have notice, whether it's actual or constructive notice of a spill that you slipped on, right?
Mm,
So a lot of times, no one's going to say, "Oh yeah, I went to Ralph's. Ralph told me I knew there was a spill. I didn't clean it up." No. So
right.
then you have to ask the other questions. For example, when you slipped, what aisle were you in, right?
Mm,
Was there anybody else around? Did you see any track mark? If there was water on the ground, did you see any track marks in the water or any trash on the ground? If you see track marks or footprints, it means somebody else before you went through that location. That means it was there longer,
mm,
right? If there's trash around, that means the person who takes care of the place, whether it's a porter or whoever it is from the facility, didn't clean up that area. So those questions change from where you are. You ask about what kind of shoes they were wearing. How long have you had the shoes? Had any problems with the shoes before? Stuff like that. If it's a staircase accident or someone, it could be dark, you ask them what the lighting situation was.
right.
There's a whole lot of stuff that comes into everyone's different.
And I'm curious because, during that phase, you're also building trust with your client. Can you tell me what are some of the critical factors that you utilize when it comes to building trust with your clients, when it comes to building trust with people who've just been through a traumatic event?
So when we're very casual in some ways.
Mm,
I mean, me and my assistants talk to clients all the time, right? They can text us, they can talk to us. And my biggest thing is honesty with the clients.
mm,
I will tell them, even if they don't want to hear something that's against their case, I will tell them. I've been accused of talking as a defense attorney more than once.
mm,
It's because my job, and I tell them all the time, is to counsel you, right? We're also
mm.
called counselors. It doesn't help me if I just tell you all the good, but never tell you the bad. There are a lot of attorneys out there who won't do that because they want to get the case in and then they're stuck, right? No, we always tell the good with the bad. We're always honest with them from the very beginning. This is why when a client tells me, "How much is my case worth?" I tell them no, right? And my firm uses this core value, and we go by this all the time. And that has ethics, respect, honesty, compassion, and communication. That's with every single one of our cases. So we're to a point where our clients really like us, to a point where last month we had a client who said, "I want to come see you guys." Again, now because everything's done online, we almost never get to see the clients anymore. It's rare. So the client came by, brought us a nice card, brought a nice gift basket, gave us a hug one by one. So it's that, you're almost like family to us.
mm. I'd love to, if you can hold up that little card again, I would love to break that down.
Yeah.
And it is ethics, respect, honesty, compassion, and communication. How did you come across those as your core values? How did you land on those being your set of core values?
So when I started using a business coach after the pandemic, about 2001, I'd say, my office never had the vision and the mission statements. So one of the first things we did, we put that together.
Hmm.
And then we started talking about this, and this actually guides me a lot as far as what we do. It does.
Wow.
So, for example, if a client, we always respectful to our clients, but honestly, if a client disrespects my office, they're out,
Right.
because we want it to be both ways. It should
Right.
be both ways. So,
And you just have that list of core values just sitting on your desk just to remind you? I mean, is that how you? That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, can you tell us a little bit about the importance of sticking to those core values and having them within an arm's reach as a reminder?
So I'll give you an example. 2 weeks ago, I had some guy, one of in the last maybe 3 clients in the past 2 years who came by in person because I want to talk about a car accident, right?
Hmm.
So he's sitting there. For half an hour, he keeps asking me, "What is he going to get? What kind of percentage of the settlement he's going to get?" The accident just happened. He hasn't had any treatment yet, but he wants to know his percentage of the recovery. I go, recovery of what? There's nothing to tell right now. You haven't had your treatment. We don't even know what your injuries are. We don't know. So for half an hour, he was pushing me. So I literally brought this out and put it in front of him and said, "You see this? Honestly, we do not lie to our clients. I'm not going to give you a number just to give you a number to sign up."
Right. And can you tell me a little bit about, I mean, I'm curious, when someone has been through a traumatic event like a car accident or something of the like, what are the first steps that they should be taking post that accident?
At the scene, let's start from the scene. If you're at the scene, make sure you exchange information. The best thing to do is take a photograph of the other driver's license, right? Because not only you have the name, you have their address. Because it becomes important in case there has to be a lawsuit filed. We have to find the person and serve them. Take a photograph of their insurance card, right? Do not discuss liability. Do not discuss who's at fault. Be as nice as you can to the other person. Even if they're being an a-hole on the other side, be nice to them, right? Whether or not you need to call law enforcement depends on the case. Nowadays, they don't show up anymore. They used to show up all the time when I first started practice. Now they just don't do it. So that's just make sure you have the information you need. Exchanging information. Take photographs of your vehicle's damage and the other vehicle's damage. This might be the only time you get to see the other vehicle as far as what damage they have. So do that, right? If there's debris on the ground, take a photograph of the scene. Show where the debris happened. Stuff like that. And then, of course, depending on when you leave, how you feel. If you have any pain, it may not be right away. Maybe the next day if you have a soft tissue. Obviously, if paramedics come by and you're seriously hurt, that's a different story. But get checked out. Make sure you're okay.
Can you talk a little bit about the role that compassion plays when it comes to representing your clients? I mean, how do you combine, providing legal expertise with that compassion for client service?
It's a fine line in some ways, because sometimes you are telling your client the truth, but you know that they're going to say, okay, well, he's not on my side. He's like argue from the other side, right?
Right.
So it's one of those things, it's more of a trust issue more than anything else. Once they get to trust us, they know what we tell them. We're not saying it to be mean. We're not saying it to be against them. We want to tell them the truth.
Right.
I mean, this is why I love getting referrals from former clients, because they know who we are and they refer clients to us.
Right. And we've talked a little bit about your practice. I'd like to shift the conversation a little bit. I'd like to talk about you.
Okay.
And you have been recognized numerous accolades, Super Lawyers, National Trial Lawyers Top 100. Can you tell us a little bit about Super Lawyers and National Trial Lawyers Top 100?
So the Super Lawyers is one of those things that you have to have certain things and certain accolades, and you have to have other attorneys basically nominate you for, if nothing else. And it has to be a process where other people recognize you more than anything else, right? So that's where it comes up. It's just not everybody can get it. In all honesty, though, the one I'm really more proud about is the Martindale-Hubbell one. So Martindale-Hubbell has been around for like 130 years. Again, the older attorneys would know what that is. The new attorneys don't know, right? It used to be the thing.
Right.
And what Martindale-Hubbell still, I believe, does, but what it used to do was ask your peers and judges to rate you as far as your abilities, your ethics, and stuff like that. Not anybody in your firm that you work with have to be outside people. And depending on how you did, you would get a rating, and the rating, the best one was AV rated, which is what I got about 10 years ago. Actually, no, 15 years ago. So to me, that's the pinnacle. That's the one that's above all of them, because I know it truly came from people I don't even know. I have no idea who they asked about me, what was said, but that's what came up. So that is purely an objective finding from third parties. Superlords is about the same thing. I don't know if it's as intense or not. And the rest of them just follow with it. So I'll be honest with you. Yeah.
And can you tell me a little bit about, I'm curious, everything that you're doing, everything that you've mentioned, your core values written right down there on that card, everything you're doing is centered around helping people. Is that drive and desire to help people? You mentioned that, you were the eldest sibling and that it was kind of baked in there, but is that drive to help people just something innate to your character, or is it something that you've cultivated along the way?
It's part of my character.
Yeah.
It is. And sometimes it becomes, I'll be honest with you, tiring. So I have to take a step back. That's why, boundaries are important for me also.
Right. I'm curious, like, is it difficult to, because you're dealing with people who, nobody calls a lawyer on the best day of their life. Nobody calls a personal injury lawyer when they're having a great day. So, you're in this situation where emotions are always running extremely, extremely high. Do you have to sort of compartmentalize it and say, I've got to leave work over here, I've got to have family over here? How do you deal with that high emotion?
So when I'm talking to a potential client, it's just me and them, whoever it is.
Right.
I was talking to a potential client about 2 weeks ago. He has an autistic son who was abused at school. And so, I have 2 kids who are on the spectrum. So I totally understand. I talked to this gentleman for a good half hour. At the end, he goes, I feel so much better. I got all that stuff off my chest. So wow. It's one of those things that, we want to, when I'm talking to a client, it's just me and them, nobody else.
Right. Kind of putting that psychology background to work a little bit in those conversations.
Yeah,
right?
And I can tell you, it's not just the clients. We have adjusters who tell us all the time, I wish I had more cases with you guys. I had one AAA adjuster one time who was going to give me a settlement check, and I went to go pick it up from their office because it's close by. And she goes, make sure you ask for me because I want to meet you. And I can tell you, you do much better with treating people with respect than you do with just trying to pound them all the time, pound them down.
Absolutely. And when you think back, you said 27 years of doing this. When you think back on those 27 years, all of the individuals you've helped, when you think back, is there a story that maybe stands out in your mind that you could share with us of an individual that you really saw a positive growth or transformation in as a result of your help and guidance?
God, honestly, I've had so many different cases and so many different stuff. I can tell you the most weird case that I may have.
That'd be great.
Okay. It's funny. I tell the story to everybody because it's kind of unusual. This goes back when I first opened my office. So about, 2007 or so. We had a client who was bit by a rattlesnake.
Oh, wow.
But it wasn't anybody's pet. Story goes, there's 3 houses in Canyon Country. Our client rents a back house from his employer. They're working the HVAC system, right? But my client was also a firefighter, a volunteer firefighter on the racetracks on the weekends. So the house on the very left, it's a dirt lot. They're trying to renovate it. They move a whole bunch of stuff around, and the snake goes from the left house into the middle house, right? My client lives in the right house, sorry. So somebody from the renovation house, the one that their lot, knocks on the door of the middle house. The homeowner is a postal worker, by the way. Knocks on the door. The guy opens the door. He thinks they're selling something. Close the door. Right? So, and then at some point they realize that there was a rattlesnake in their backyard. The homeowner. So the homeowner, the postal worker, grabs literally his shotgun to go out there and try to kill this rattlesnake. The wife freaks out, calls the house where my client lives, the front house, and he said, hey, I'm just going to use the word Jerry. I don't remember his name was Jerry or not. Hey, Jerry's out there with his shotgun trying to kill the rattlesnake. We need help. So then the front house calls my client with the back of the house. Says, we need to help them with this rattlesnake. So my client grabs a can of CO2 to cool it down, and they go into the middle house to try to do this. Now, the story changes from here on. There's 3 different versions.
Oh, wow.
My client says, I went over there, sprayed him with this can of us and the CO2. The snake started sleeping because it was frozen, and the homeowner came by with a rake, stabbed the snake, and the snake jumped up and bit me. The homeowner says, oh, no, that's not what happened. Your client basically tried to grab the snake with his hand, and the snake bit him, right? And then there are people on the left side, some witnesses, saying, oh, the homeowner wasn't even there. But anyways, so my client, poor guy, when he got bit, paramedics came by, had to induce coma to save him because his brain started swelling up.
Oh
So yeah, he went to the hospital. He was there for 2 weeks with anti-venom medication.
wow.
His bill was over $300,000, right? So we were able to pay off his hospital bill, and he got, again, this goes back about 18 years ago. He got about $20,000 for
Wow.
and so that's it. That was the strangest story I could come up with. But I mean, there are other ones we've helped, but this is the one that always sticks to my mind because it's just a weird, unusual story more than anything else.
I was going to say, you don't hear a lot about rattlesnakes and CO2, right? That doesn't come across the desk every day. Well, Mason, this has been an absolutely fantastic conversation. If anybody out there listening could use your help, could use the help of the firm, where can the people find you?
So the Mason Law Firm, not the Mason Law Group, the Mason Law Firm, our website is MRSCVLAW. You can either go with Mr. SCV Law or my initials MRSCV Law.
Well, Mason, thank you so much for coming on the show. This was absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for joining us.
Sure, thank you very much.
And thank you, everyone, for listening. This has been Partnerships for Profit, presented by LeDuc Entertainment. Mason, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Partnerships for Profit. We hope you've gained valuable insights on how to form profitable partnerships and take your business to the next level. Be sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Got a partnership story to share or someone you'd like to see featured on the show? Reach out to us. Until next time, keep building those partnerships for profit.